$300 a piece, nice and clean and sharp. I'm like the Seabiscuit of this business.
Thanks for noticing. And this one I just thought was a little stash. I mean, almost left it behind.
This one is called a pomander. This was soft.
Fame changed everything for the Storage Wars cast members, and it's not in the way you think. While the cameras captured the thrill of the auction, it never truly reflected how deeply the publicity changed their lives behind the scenes. Some suffered serious health concerns, and others just lost too much to the spotlight. How difficult was it to keep their private lives away from the show? Was the show outrightly responsible for some of their disturbing life changes? Join us as we discuss the divisive effects of fame on the Storage Wars cast. Fame hit faster than they expected. When Storage Wars premiered on December 1st, 2010, not many people expected it to blow up as quickly as it did. But the characters were just too good at their job. Dave Hester had his catchy one-liners. Dave Hester brought some serious competitiveness, and Gerard Schultz and Brandy Passante just kept everyone glued in. Although the show immediately hit the ground running with incredible ratings across the board, it had some serious competition, including auction hunters, storage hunters, and pawn stars. But no competition was enough to completely blow them out of the water. At first, the show started with a few bidders, dusty old lockers, and a very slight chance of uncovering some hidden treasure. Fans watched in anticipation, and bidders feared buying the wrong locker. But this sense of the unknown created a compelling mystery that kept fans hooked. While no one could have predicted how quickly the show would become a fan favorite on American auction television, the sudden fame created a whole new story. Suddenly, these relatively new auction bidders became television stars, getting recognition in a grocery store or even a train station. But what exactly is the cost of huge publicity? It is no news that celebrities often find their lives under a microscope, with a chance for a personal life suddenly slipping away from them. And that's when everything changed. Suddenly, more was expected from the bidders. They were no longer simple auction bidders looking to buy a locker, but a source of entertainment to fans, meaning that they had to show more personality, including having some popular one-liner catchphrases and leaning into some exaggerated narrative that the show seemed to push. But once the cameras were off, things changed behind the scenes. Obviously, a large majority of the bidders were never celebrities to begin with, meaning that they had never been at the center of a fan base's attention. They simply got a chance to be celebrities on a show no one expected to blow up. New expectations followed, and the cameras never really stopped rolling, even when they were behind the scenes, pressure cooking their environment and forcing the cast into some really difficult moments. But just how much did the pressure from the set seep into their private lives, and how well did they handle it? The hidden pressure behind the cameras. Fans soon grew accustomed to the compelling environment introduced by the cast members. The fast-paced auction, the competitive edge, the explosive personalities, and the Dotson family's fast-speaking auctioning style. However, as the pressure mounted over time, no one felt it more than Dave Hester. Dave was a menace. He enjoyed bidding a little more than most people. He was the proper villain, who loved to trash-talk his opponents, bid aggressively, and sometimes disrupt the process with a loud, "Yup." He just wasn't a character you could miss. He was always present and, more importantly, brought the storm, a perfect foil to some of the other characters who operated rather conservatively. But as much as Dave often brought the noise and the energy with him, he almost never crossed the line with the network until October 2012. When everything changed. The show was rising to its peak when Dave made some rather damaging allegations, threatening to unravel everything the show had always been known for. For some context, the show had always been known for its originality and often stood out for its straight-to-business approach. with little to no Hollywood hype to spice things up. However, Dave had a completely different idea. He believed that the show was often scripted behind the scenes, meaning that the lockers, whose content is often sold as mysterious to the fans, might have been packed with treasure and deliberately sold to a specific bidder. At first, he was subtle with it, creating a mess behind the scenes with the bigwigs at A&E. But they could only have that for so long until they couldn't. Consequently, in October 2012, the mogul was fired from the show. Rumors swirled uncontrollably, with fans conjuring tons of reasons for A&E's decision to let go of one of its most important characters. While his status on the show was nearly signed and sealed, Dave's persona is quite reflective of a man who would not take the situation lying down. The fans expected a fight, a legal battle that would set the show on fire, and that's exactly what they got. In December 2012, Dave finally played his hand. He decided to take on the network in a brutal litigation battle, suing them for wrongful termination. The battle line was drawn. Only this time, it was outside the show. And for the first time in the 2 years of its run, the fans were experiencing drama on and off the screen. It was almost as though the cameras never stopped rolling, shifting from storage lockers to the court. As a result of the lawsuit and his being fired, Dave lost the right to appear in Season 4 of the show. Could this really be the end of the road between Dave and the network? That was the common question at the time, and no one really seemed to have an answer until 2014, when the lawsuit exploded. After 2 years of fighting the lawsuit, the network agreed to have Dave back on the show. But was Dave the only man to have ever ridden on the waves of the show? When reality television became too real. For many fans of the franchise, the show was a simple escape into the world of auctioning and negotiation. But it soon became much more than that for Gerard Schultz and Brandy Passante. The pair joined the show in 2010 and became a rather serious force to be reckoned with. When they were first bled into the show, they were referred to as the Young Guns, especially because they never let any auction pass them by. They brought the energy and fueled the show with their competitive edge, finally matching the energy Dave mostly brought with him. But these two were more than just fresh young blood brought onto the show for a different energy. They were two kids in love who shared a passion for risk-taking and making money from the most difficult enterprise. But other than that, they always had a dream to finally have a show of their own. They were just as prepared as they were ambitious. In 2014, the lovers finally got what they wanted, creating their own show, Brandy and Jared, Married to the Job, as a spin-off from Storage Wars. Although they had created their own spin-off series, they remained part of the show that helped nurture their brand in its infancy until 2021. But beneath all this, trouble was brewing. Something really dark was lurking, and no one could really tell what it was. As expected, fans noticed a drop in the lovers' chemistry, and although it took some time, they had started to really address the elephant in the room. These two came into the show as lovers, riding on the wave of an 11-year-old relationship. But as the years passed, fans began to wonder why they never really tied the knot legally. They had created a spin-off, throwing the word married around like a prequel to some nuptials fans had been waiting on for many years. But nothing ever seemed to happen. While they had both remained tight-lipped about the story around their marriage, it didn't take long before fans caught on to the intricacies of their relationship. On the premiere of the show's 13th season, Brandy finally confirmed the rumors surrounding her relationship with Gerard. "I'm not with Jared anymore," she confirmed. Obviously, the weight had shifted to Gerard, as fans watched and asked for answers, and social media was ripping into him for his silence. The crushing weight of fame was pressing him, pressing really hard, until he broke his silence, claiming they had truly broken up. But more importantly, he claimed that their broken relationship would have no effect on their appearances on the show. Just because Brandy and I aren't together anymore doesn't mean we can't go to an auction, but separately, he confirmed. But just when do personal struggles become too much to take? When fame meets personal struggle. As the years passed, it wasn't long before cast members of the show came to terms with their newfound celebrity status. Although it was a blessing and a curse, it would seem the latter was somewhat more of a highlight for a lot of them, especially Mark Balelo. On the show, Mark was a different menace. He owned his own auction shop, Balelo Inc., but his greatest fame came from being on the show. While fans had mostly seen personalities like Dave Hester, who popularly brought the smoke with him throughout the first season and even threw the network under the bus when he felt convinced that the show was rigged, Mark's appearance in the second season was a breath of fresh air. Mark was a Portuguese-American who lived in Brazil for some time, giving him first-hand knowledge of social dynamics that he applied to everyday life. He first appeared on the show in the second season, bringing a completely different vibe with him. He earned the moniker Rico Suave with his flamboyant bids, the man purse, and his cash-heavy approach to the show. Sources claimed he carried a little bit more than $50,000 in his man purse. Mark was a smooth talker with a lot of money, and during the bids, he mostly let his money do the talking. His persona was a fantastic foil to Dave's villainous approach to the auction, elevating the show's rating in the process. Imagine giving fans the chance to be a hero and a villain on a reality television show. It was the perfect Hollywood stardust, but this time it came naturally from the personas of the show's cast. However, just beneath all that smart, smooth talking, Rico had his demons. Demons he had fought in secrecy for many years, without anyone really calling in his business. However, coming into the show in 2012 with the perfect hairline and mafia-style gentleman persona was just screaming for scrutiny, and that's exactly what he got. According to TMZ, the sleek, smooth talker was arrested by the police on suspicion of possessing methamphetamine on February 9, 2013, in front of his auction shop in Simi Valley, California. Critics speculated that news of his arrest might not have hit mainstream media when he was simply Mark Balelo. But as Storage Wars' Rico Suave, there is no escape from the spotlight. It was the first time he had been arrested since he made his debut on the show. But just days after his arrest, things take a much darker turn. Sources close to the situation believed that he was distraught and partly broken after he was arrested. So he kept his car running in a garage, where he was found dead just a couple of days after he was released. But if fame could crush a man as smooth as the famous Rico Suave, how did someone like Barry Weiss react to it? Barry Weiss, when fame finally caught up. You know how some people have already explored the world, gotten bored, and need a whole new source of entertainment? Well, Barry belonged in that category. He was not your regular bidder trying to sneak his way through bids like Mark, superbly aggressive like Dave, or interested in playing the lover boy card like the Young Guns. He was different, superbly relaxed, and did not care at all about the money. Why? He already made too much. Before the fame on Storage Wars, Barry ran a wholesale produce export-import company, Northern Produce, with his brother Joey for over 20 years, making a fortune in the process. When he retired in the mid-50s, he became an avid antique collector and indulged his crazy love for motorcycles. enjoying every little bit of the fun that came with it. For Barry, he wanted to keep the low-key life, but that's not entirely possible when your friend is now the director of one of the biggest auction reality shows in the country, is it? Tom Beers, who produces the show, has been friends with Barry for a long time. Hence, it was not particularly difficult to get him in the fold. In the debut year, Barry made his first appearance on the show, looking to get a storage locker like everyone else. But to most people, it didn't seem like he wanted it that badly. He earned the moniker The Collector because of his extensive antique collection. For Barry, getting a locker wasn't really to die for. You win some, you lose some. That was his philosophy, and he stuck to his guns. However, there was something else about Barry that stuck out like a sore thumb. He drove exquisite cars and made some rather eccentric purchases. While the show seemed like a battlefield to most bidders, he treated it like a playground, enjoying himself, maybe even a little too much sometimes. Owing to his detachment from the chaos, he earned fans who watched the show just to see him and gained serious recognition in the process. However, such popularity came at a cost. He had set a precedent as the cool, heavy spender who was not particularly interested in building a massive storage locker portfolio like the others, and fans wanted him to continue in the same vein. And just like that, popularity turned into pressure. The clock was ticking, 4 years passed, and Barry chose to quit the show. No shenanigans, no explanation. He just pulled a Houdini and left fans grappling with the unknown reason he left until 2014, when he resurfaced in a short-lived spin-off called Buried Treasure. In 2017, he had an interview with TMZ, where he finally came clean about leaving. He claimed to have left the franchise to return to being a professional slacker. But more importantly, he wanted to leave the show on a high note when it still had some serious popularity. But just how long can a man like that stay away from television? Just 5 years after his long hiatus, he was reportedly in an accident, crashing his motorbike into a car pulling out of a parking lot. He had severe chest trauma and broken bones in his legs. But not even a bike car collision was going to stop him from making a return to television. Between 2021 and 2023, the franchise welcomed him back as a guest star. However, he has made no appearance since the 2025 season. If you think Barry had it bad, wait till you see the Dotsons' woes. The Dotsons, the ones who endured it all. While fame came like some unexpected lightning rod to most of the cast members, the Dotsons had it differently. Before television fame, they had been staples in the auction world. The couple had been in the auction game since 1974, when they ran American Auctioneers, a full-service auction company in Riverside, California. Right from the very first episode, the couple put their foot down and set a standard everyone had to live by. Dan's rapid-fire auction chants had every bidder on their toes, and fans were watching rather closely to see who made the first bid. While Laura rarely made the headlines like her husband did, she had a commanding presence on set, managing the bidding process, shouting the rules, and making herself as visible and popular with the crowd as possible, yelling, "Don't forget to pay the lady," at the end of most auctions. But was their experience with fame enough to get them a free pass from the realities of real life? In 2014, the unthinkable happened, and their lives changed. Dan, who never missed a beat on the show, had his health struggles behind the scenes. He had a 40-year history of smoking and high blood pressure. Maybe not the best combination, but he managed it like a pro until 2014, when he almost lost his life. He dropped to the ground after stepping out of the shower in one swift motion. He looks at me, and his eyes are rolled back in his head, and his legs are going out. and the color immediately went from, like, he was real red and purple to like a bluish green, Laura said. Eventually, he was diagnosed with a double brain aneurysm and forced to quit smoking with Laura, watching him like a hawk. While fame definitely came with the game, changes, especially in their personal lives, became unstoppable and increasingly eerie. But the question remains, is it really worth the trouble? For context, in Barry's case, the show gave him a new lease of life, allowing him to have a different kind of fun and purpose after spending years accumulating wealth as a business owner. Mark just couldn't stomach his arrest and never got that clean break. Dave made his name, but had a hemorrhagic stroke in November 2018, caused by high blood pressure and severe sleep apnea. And then there is the Dotsons. However, the show remains on the road, with the Dotsons, Dave, and most of the old heads keeping the legacy afloat. How long can the cast members continue to soldier on with the weight of fame on their backs? Is there a chance they finally figure out a way to balance privacy and popularity? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.